I never know what you're gonna do, so I'm okay, I don't care.
I will call you after.
So I'm assuming Patricia's just gonna open a meeting.
I only remember what happened. That happens. You could, that would be fun.
But I did not put, I didn't put Dave's recommendations through, but I printed.
Oh, yeah, it's scary.
Doing very well.
Everybody has this one there.
What?
Just so you know the process here.
Just literally open it and let them go.
You know, I'm mad at that. Because you can see the signals.
Oh, your wife had that surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, she kicks me out all the time.
After I did the minutes,
Good, so
it reminded me what
all
you guys
went
wanted.
well.
He had the whole PowerPoint.
Should you have had it sooner?
Whoever sits in this chair is short.
Well, I think they had them up at some tables, so I don't think they
Get his singing mic out.
Oh, is it karaoke night?
He might go.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
Yeah, I volunteered to play with what you needed.
Hi. Just about
Just about. Didn't you have a cold last time?
Yes, you were offering.
Is it the same one?
Same one. You know, that's a good cold.
Don't complain.
At least I could talk. I wasn't able to talk for about. Oh, yeah. Hello?
How do you does that?
Hey, sweetie.
You recognize her.
Oh, okay. Lauren,
Right
now,
now,
she said she's
Probably should have done a long time ago.
So I bet she, so no shenanigans, nothing like that, right?
I'm sorry?
No shenanigans
A
or
lot.
shrieking.
Eyes, shoulders, knees.
Everybody's free to do what they want. I just want to make sure.
Whoa, I don't know how I came in on that one.
She said that she's live streaming tonight, so I'm joking around. It's a family, it's a family show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand.
How you doing?
Not
I
really.
didn't call you this time.
Eyes are doing better? That is good. You see clearly now? The rain's not going on. Yes, I know, it just came to me. See clearly, Dad. Yeah, I'm glad.
Well, that's on you. I got witnesses that she didn't get up and
Go for it, run.
No.
I've read everything I should be prepared.
You're always prepared.
I could see it a little more
Takes care of us. And then,
I don't disagree with that at all, but I think that's been tested.
But that is our,
I could agree with you more.
I know, but also, that's not just us, but the leasing company should put some kind of, put out these leases with knowing that you're gonna be here for 3 years and all.
Desks and divisions, business. Well, you're not in the wages, it's presentations, of course.
Being here now makes a difference.
I work in some of these warehouses.
And I'm like,
No,
It's not like.
Yeah.
it's fortunately somebody was maybe spot and then it's outside.
the ticket is 6, but do you wanna wait till Charlie comes out of the
Yeah.
But they don't decide that.
There she is.
Yeah, they went.
So I was saying with some of these companies that are leaving these warehouses,
But they went all the way to.
what they need to do is when they put these leases out there, they need to put some kind of amendment on there.
All right, you're on.
And all their lives stay.
Yeah, well, they're turning on. They're turning on. They have phone turning.
And then it comes.
I think.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
All right, I call this regular meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, January 23rd, and the time is 6 o'clock. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call, please.
Shelley Marie iPad. Here. Dave Olson.
Here.
Letitia McIntyre.
Here.
Adam Kelly. Here. Stephen Smith.
Here.
And is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And are there any announcements?
Yeah, because I put the NEICS codes on the agenda for after this, for Dave and I to give you an update.
All right, thank you very much for
You're
that.
welcome.
Is there a motion to waive the public reading and to approve the minutes from the January 9th, 2024 meeting as presented?
So move.
Is there a second on that? All in favor?
Aye.
And I did make I did some corrections off of Shelley Marie's recommendation.
I saw that email, that was. All right, so we are going to turn this meeting over to Jim Leonard, and we are going to go over the comprehensive plan for this public meeting, and he's going to have a presentation. So Jim, take it away.
Appreciate it, thank you. I don't know, if I stand here, neither, will that pick up?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, but then I'm tall. I'm gonna stand in the corner. Thank you, appreciate it. This is meeting number 2. We're back and kind of giving the official presentation to the group, in which I believe you guys will solicit input from public comments, which we can then incorporate if you see fit. So I'm going to go all the way back to kind of the beginning, just so the public has a baseline information of where we have been, where we have gone. The plan itself is broken down into a few different elements, which I won't go through all of them. Each element has maps, text. In the end, it has implementation steps and policies that the committee had discussed and voted, obviously, to send to you folks, ultimately to the trustees. But it is broken up into those different sections. I also take the chance during any presentation to explain what the future land use and the comprehensive plan is versus the zoning. Again, the future land use and the comprehensive plan is a policy. So it's a guiding document that you folks, plus the trustees, the administration should use to guide your decisions. Do you have to go with it? No, but you probably should have a decent reason as to why. It just shouldn't be because I don't want to, probably have some basis to that justification. And it's not a zoning map, so the boundaries, although the future land use map follows parcel boundaries, it leads to less confusion. Those boundaries and those districts can bleed over into other parcels. It doesn't have to follow those parcel lines. My ADD, when I do maps, it has to follow a parcel line. It's easier for you guys to interpret if it follows parcel lines. However, it can bleed into other districts. The comprehensive plan is a document that looks towards the future. Obviously, again, you guys need to, look towards the future for development. So these things that are recommended in the plan don't have to happen tomorrow, but if development happens, you guys have a document that says, hey, we've been thinking about this, it's in our plan. A developer either has to help with it, or you guys, there's decisions would have to be made, whereas zoning is here and now legally binding. So I'm not gonna go over all that, but those are the difference between the zoning, which is legal law, not codified in the township, but a resolution, and you guys are mandated to follow it, and you have specific steps that you have to follow as well. Planning process. So we started this long ago. My hair was a little less gray than it is today, but the trustees appointed a planning committee, and then the planning committee met 2 or 3 times, maybe, I don't exactly remember when, this was back in 2022, and here we are today. But we developed a survey that was sent out, and I'll go over a little bit later. The committee drafted the plan, well, I should say, our staff, our company drafted the plan with the committee's input. The committee reviewed it. Ultimately, I think the night of the approval was 10 people were in attendance of the committee. There was originally 15. I think it passed 10-0 to vote to recommend approval to you guys. So that's kind of where we are. Obviously, we are now here with the zoning commission review. You guys hold a public hearing and then make a recommendation with any potential changes after you solicit your own feedback to the trustees, and then we do this whole fun thing over again. So that's kind of the process. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I do want to acknowledge the committee members, the township staff, the organizations that all helped, came to these meetings once a month, and I had a great discussion and great discourse on differing opinions and viewpoints. And in the beginning of this, I always want to make everybody a little bit mad. That way someone doesn't get their entire way. Everyone gets a little upset, and that's fine. That means we're doing our job. Not everyone is so-called winning. So this is the process. I wish I would have known this wall's here. Can you see that? Okay. So we started in June, and we had our first committee meeting. October of this year was our last year, excuse me, is where we had that unanimous decision. November is when we were here last to give kind of the precursor information to you guys about the plan. And then we're sitting here tonight for the second presentation. We had 14 committee meetings, and that equaled approximately 280 volunteer hours by the committee. So this wasn't done in a vacuum, nor was it done without input from the committee. And then we also had community input where we had the survey responses, 693. We had the project website, and we streamed meetings as well. So we're trying to be as transparent as possible with this whole thing. I won't go into that. That's the survey card. We had about 11, almost 12% response rate. We shoot for 10. I know in a meeting like I with Shelley and Dave, we talked about that. Yeah, we would love to have that higher, but I think you're above average, a little bit above average with what we typically see. So that's the kind of the mundane stuff that I just wanted to set that baseline. Here are a few of the maps, and when we were putting the presentation together, I really wasn't sure what you wanted to see, so I took a guess, and everybody loves maps. I like making maps, so that's a win-win. And so the maps I'm going to go over show kind of the big policy decisions, obviously future land use map and some transportation things. The document itself is fairly long, so I don't want you guys to fall asleep on me, so we're going to keep it a little bit short. But I'm happy to answer any questions about the plan itself, or whether it's from you or the audience. But this map shows, and it's in the pink, shows kind of the active transportation network. So this is whether it's sidewalks or multi-use paths, walking paths, trying to connect the highly developed areas together. So if people don't want to get in their car, and if they live fairly close to the school, they live close to a neighborhood, sometimes you actually have to, if you're in a car, you have to get out of the neighborhood and then turn around and turn right back into a school or a park. So how do we connect those developments with areas that are highly desired by the community without having to get in your car? So The pink area, if you overlay this on top of the future land use map, you should see, at least I hope to see, that the areas in which we are proposing these active transportation improvements connect to the areas of potential development. So this isn't going to happen tomorrow. You know, this is again a guiding document. Future trustees should use this to look at funding sources for different projects. There's tons of money out there for infrastructure. So these maps, this document should be used to help secure those funding dollars. Probably more interesting to most people in this room is the surface transportation. So these are the roads and the intersections. We highlighted roadways that we thought needed immediate attention, at least in the near term, as well as intersections. And you'll see maps, or you'll see numbers with each intersection or roadway segment. For some reason, the little circles didn't show up there. Anyway, so the red circles are intersections that we identified that there's something is going to have to happen there. We don't get into, you know, is this going to be a 4-lane divided intersection or something like that. We just know that based on traffic, based on anecdotal evidence, we've identified all of these. And we even put Taylor Road in here, even though it's down in Fairfield County. We did put it in there just to acknowledge, you know, our project is ongoing. We have it in our plan to show support for that. So these are the surface transportation. Now, this could change, whether through your information, through committee information, or whatever. So nothing is in concrete at this point. It's kind of setting right now, so it's drying, and we're getting close to having it put it into concrete, but still possibly could change. All right, so now we're getting to the little sexier topic of land use. These were the current numbers when we ran this analysis early in this project of how the township was made up of existing land use. This data source is the Lincoln County Auditor, so this is how property is taxed. So a lot of people ask about, you know, I live on property, but it's showing an ag or something. Well, that's just, I don't know why that is the case, but that's how the county auditor classifies it, and that's the best available data we use. And then you see the acreage, number of parcels, and then the percent of acreage is over here. So you have a lot of residential parcels, but less acreage than agriculture, which makes sense. Exempt is anything from churches to this building to anything that is tax exempt that do not pay real estate taxes. So almost 1,000 acres now.
I have a quick question, if
Yes.
it's okay. Do the right-of-ways, are those included in the exempt?
No, so right-of-way is not included in these numbers. Yes, thank you. And Shelley, you bring up a good point. So these maps and a lot of the data, they're not going to match because sometimes they're different data sources. Our staff had a great meeting with Shelley today to go over some comments, and that was one of them is, well, you say something over here, but it's a little bit off over here. Typically, it's because we're using two different data sources, whether it's census data. So one of the comments and one of the things we're addressing in the plan is making sure those sources are specifically identified, as well as putting a little, I won't say caveat, but a disclaimer that if you're as thorough as Dave has been, that these numbers are not going to match up. And there's a reason why. It's not from shady math or something like that. It's different data sources produce different numbers. So we are going to make sure those sources are correctly identified. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. All right, so this is the pretty map that shows the existing land use. A lot of people ask, well, what does it matter? We're talking about 10 years from now. 10 years from now, we're going to look back at this map and see where that township was in terms of land use. So that's the purpose of putting this existing land use map in there. Another comment we received was the maps were not easy to read, so we're going back through there and changing those as well to make it more vibrant and easy to see. So we're working on that. Something that at least my team is trying to introduce is this idea of form-based code, which is the next step at least as a recommendation in this plan, to go through your zoning resolution and work on, everyone wants to get stuck on density, which I get, I understand, but there's so much more that zoning can do to create a vibrant community that is more than density. So we put this idea of transect zones and form-based code in the comp plan to think about, mainly in mixed-use developments like where we're sitting here today, in some commercial areas, looking at getting people out of their cars, walkable, having dense areas where we know it's going to develop and the transportation and the water and the sewer infrastructure can handle it, so we can save the balance of the ag in the township. So we're not creating this sprawl effect where we're just going to have everything go everywhere. We're condensing and we want these specific areas to grow. And we want them to grow using form-based code. And form-based code is purely just making sure the buildings are harmonious with the pedestrian access. Cars take a second seat or back seat to development. You push buildings up to the front, you have sidewalks, you have cafes, you have pedestrian focus where people can talk and mingle and hold concerts and have community events. So getting people out of their cars and back to talking to each other instead of just waving as they pass in their cars. So it is not over the entirety of the township in this plan. We want it, again, specifically to specific areas, so we're not just building the township into a giant municipality. It's specific to a few actual areas in the plan. So the transect basically says you start at one end in ocean and you slowly develop into mountainous regions, or in land development, you have pasture, cow fields, sheep, whatever, and then you slowly grow into an urban development. So there's things in between. I doubt the township is going to want these last two transects. They're probably going to be sitting here, but that's the next step if the township so desires. We had probably a meeting or two about this. It's a new concept, so no one in Licking County is doing it. A lot of pushback we've received, my team's received, is, well, we're not an urban area. Why are we doing this? So if you think about it, if you do it now, usually this is done in retrospect and for redevelopment purposes. So the thought for us was, how about we just do it right the first time, and then we don't have to worry about brownfields. We don't have to worry about buildings that are sitting vacant. Buildings are more likely to be reused and repurposed if we build them right and focus the first time. So take, for instance, downtown Grandville. I know a lot of people are like, we don't want to be Grandville. I'm not saying be Grandville. Look at the fabric of their downtown, how vibrant it is. It's not car focused. You have, 30-foot sidewalks on one side, you have people sitting outside eating. So you're trying to mimic that fabric instead of having a car-centric fabric. So again, I'm not saying you have to be like Granville. Maria, I didn't say that. But that's just a way of looking at different areas in which to grow. So we're working with St. Albans Township and Madison Township in the village of Hanover on doing the same concepts. There's a learning curve, and so it's going to take a while to talk this through and look at it. But we put a map in here to show where I think we want just the G4 areas, which is the infill growth, to focus that form-based code right there. The township can do it wherever they so choose. If for whatever reason they want to go down here at Palmer and the southeast corner of the township, that's fine. It doesn't make sense, but you guys can put it wherever you so desire. But the framework to create that form-based code as a recommendation is in this document. Something new, something different. Future land use. Everybody wants to talk about this, so here we go. So these are the future land use categories that we presented to the committee, we being Stephanie and I. And so this is the breakdown. A lot of people will say, well, you're ruining you're taking away the agriculture. Yeah, probably. But we also recognize the pressures you all are under. Water and sewer is going to have a huge play in all of this, so you can't really get density without water and sewer, so that is also at play. the plan itself, I think, is really important, not to just look at this chart or the map. If you take all the elements together and utilize that as the policy for development, I hope, I'm not naive, I hope that density falls down maybe a few notches in discussions, and we talk about quality, we talk about open space, parks and rec, and what people can expect in their development, not just when you talk about density, okay, we're gonna have 60-foot lots and that's it, and that's the negotiating point. We want more negotiating points with all these different factors. Again, I'm not naive, future land use map is very sexy when it comes to both township stances and developers. So this is a pretty future land use map. I'll highlight a few of the things we decided and why. We have this outlier over here. I'll start east to west. We have this outlier of planned employment, manufacturing, not heavy. We had some discussion about that. The reason we left it there is that's what it's zoned currently. So we didn't, at least I didn't think, putting it to ag or something was going to be beneficial, because I highly doubt someone's going to come in and say, hey, can we change this? It's highly valuable right now as manufacturing. So that is why you see that guy just sitting out there kind of alone. Village commercial, or village center, excuse me, that farm-based code area. I know you guys are already approving, or you have approved a big massive development plan which incorporates some of those ideas. So that's kind of mimicking the area around the core of Etna, kind of creating that as your downtown. City of Heath, they don't have a downtown. They're working on it, but they don't have one. So we wanted to make sure, as the township grows, that we secure a place to again have people congregate, to have pedestrian-friendly access to restaurants or shops or whatever that may be. You'll see south of 70 is a lot of ag, but also a little bit of residential, only because this is viewed as, or at least my opinion of this over here, is an attempt to stop Reynoldsburg from continuing to come further into the township by giving some density to developers on this side. You know, if we just put ag right here and densities at 2 units an acre or 1 unit an acre, guess who they're calling? The mayor of Reynoldsburg, and say, hey, what density can we get? What water and sewer we can get? So the thought behind this being residential, which may not be popular, but it's a way, it's a tool, the only way we have been able to show townships to be able to afford development, unless it's, through non-execution agreements and whatnot, which are illegal and fun. This is a way to dangle a carrot in front of a developer and say, you might not get the density you want, but you don't have to go through the hassle of working with, the annexation process. And now, as this develops, you now have a wall on the other side of Reynoldsburg to help stop that eastern push. Is it foolproof? No, absolutely not. It may make sense for a developer to still go to Reynoldsburg, but if they do, they do. I mean, you can't do anything about that. So this is an attempt to keep the township in the township. No surprise here, the corporate park area is shown as planned employment, and then down here with Kohl's and all those, we kept as planned employment as well. We did reduce a little bit, I think. This right here, Skinnell, we have that as neighborhood commercial, so more commercial instead of manufacturing. We identified the park area that the township's working on, the school districts. We do have a couple different residential categories. So planned residential, again, that is more like a PUD that you guys are all familiar with, planned unit development, working with the developer to potentially negotiate different pieces of amenities, whether it's parks or trails or whatever. And then we have single family residential, which is already built out residential. And then we have rural residential, which is kind of a transition zone between the commercial and the ag as well. It's a lot of information. Is there any questions on this one? Makes sense? Let's go home. Appreciate it. Okay. So, again, I'm not naive, so we talked about density. We even had I proposed the idea, didn't go well, that we don't even talk about density in the comp plan. But again, we're here to serve you guys. So we had a lot of discussion about residential densities. And so where you see these numbers, I think we ultimately had planned residential at 4 units per acre, if the committee reminds me. I think that's what we had, but we had some discussion of going to 3, and if through the variance process or the PUD process, if they want to increase that it's easier to increase on your behalf than to decrease. You never get a developer to get down, right? So we cut that at 3, but we also have open space requirements. So not only would that 3 units per acre be required, or be the max, they have to put in always 40% open space. Now this is if and when you implement this plan in your zoning code, your zoning resolution. So these are all recommendations. So it doesn't really matter what this says if you guys don't take the next step and evaluate your zoning resolution, this means nothing. So you got to look at taking this the next step to changing the zoning resolution. Oh, sorry. Any questions on this one, this chart? Another thing was buffering, and so we took a community out of Indiana, I forget the name, but we took their general chart and we talked about it and we discussed it, and we ended up on these buffers. So depending on the different uses that this buffer is going to land between is going to dictate the size of the buffer and then what is built within that buffer. So I believe small is residential and neighborhood commercial, large is residential and planned employment. So that's the bigger thing. We put some minimum sizes and maximum sizes. And I think we had a good bit of discussion on this to change, and we tweak these numbers to better fit what Etna Township is looking for. So that is a recommendation in there as well. The last thing is, towards the end, we decided we just didn't want this thing to sit on the shelf, as they all do, most of the time until it's too late. So we said, okay, we are recommending to the trustees to form an implementation committee. I'm not here to advocate for more governmental red tape or anything like that, but you guys have a lot of stuff to do, the trustees have stuff to do. So we basically are recommending the trustees create, and it could be the 15 members that we had on the committee at the beginning, but to sit down and continue to look at this document, understanding the decisions you're making, understanding the decisions the trustees are making, and making sure they're either in line with this, or if they're not, does the comp plan need to be updated or revised? And what the committee can do is also look at this and say, hey, we have a policy in here about parks. What are we doing with that policy? Like, we think this policy is good, it's favorable towards the township. Can we get some action on it? So kind of keeping this plan at the forefront of you guys. Again, you guys have a lot to do after the trustees. So having someone being accountable for this plan to be either implemented, adopted, or amended with the rest of an ad hoc committee. Next steps, what we're doing on my team, we're making some changes again. David had a great meeting. We're going to meet with them again. We're redrawing a lot of things. And then the final draft, ultimately, depending on public input, will be sent to the trustees. So you guys, we pushed out the draft you have. We're making changes. We're not going to push out another draft till I'm fairly certain we're done, because when you have multiple drafts, people get confused. Which draft are you looking at? I don't know. Which draft are you looking at? So once we're really sure that we're ready to ship this to the trustees, that's when the next draft will be published on the website or whatever. Another thing I should mention is the survey. That will be an appendix to the plan. Right now it's included. Also, at our last meeting, we talked about the not so favorable language and tones that are used in that. I pushed back a little bit saying it's a public document, but we will remove some of that negativity out of there, the bad, real profanity and stuff, and make an excerpt saying, due to graphic nature, these comments have been removed. However, we will give the township a copy as it is public record. So it's not in the plan, but it will live here. And it will be an appendix as well. And then the 3 trustees get to adopt it at some point, which I hope it's sooner than later. But it's up to them ultimately. I'm assuming they're going to do similar to what you guys did with 1, maybe 2 public meetings. I don't know. Haven't heard. Once we get it up there, and then I'm sure they'll make a decision. So that is all I have.
Ask a question. Early on, you had the roads, you had the intersections and roads that's the one. What were the criteria for saying these definitely need work?
Yeah, so anecdotal, like we know Main Street's not wide enough. Is there science behind that? No. Some of them are based on even the connector down to 33 we talked about with 310, regionally what's happening. We did create the crash map, and created a cluster map showing the crashes of where those are. So we tried to put the intersections that had high crash densities around them. So we didn't run a traffic study. We didn't, put tubes down and count cars or anything, but it was using data points. Plus the future land use map of looking at, this is going to be village commercial. We should look at these intersections, knowing 310 and 70 with increased truck traffic, are those going to have to be tweaked at all? So those are kind of the data points we get for that.
So the recommendations are, you're not saying what we need to do.
Correct.
They need something.
Some can have to happen.
Some you're going to have to do some research.
I do appreciate the thought that was put there, because once development or everything increases, yes, us who live in the township, we know some of these are very congested areas. So having that in there, I do appreciate that, to keep it as a recommendation, or however they want to move forward.
Sure. That was one of the reasons for this map as well, plus the huge push on pedestrian access. If we can just reduce the amount of cars, maybe these intersection improvements are staged for 5-10 years, I don't know. Are we going to reduce the congestion that much by getting people out? No. But it's a chicken and the egg. If we don't build the access points for people to walk, they're never going to walk, and they're going to continue to get in the car. But we know demographically with younger generations, I don't see kids, young adults aren't getting their driver's license, and millennials and Gen Zs don't want 2 cars. They don't want to be dependent on that monthly payment. So that's another demographic shift that everyone is seeing, and having younger folks live in your community is always a good one.
Any comments on this side?
I have one quick comment regarding the residential, planned residential. If you remember the upper left block, that borders Reynoldsburg. And I didn't find out about this until it was pretty much over with. But they actually did try to annex that. They planned to put warehouses there. And the township took them to court because it was in violation of one of their economic agreements. So that stopped. So I didn't realize what a reality it was.
Really?
Plus, it was in my backyard.
Now, I like the point that you brought out about how the residential will help buffer that. It may not stop it, but at least it has an idea of, if someone says, well, this is actually planned for residential, that's going to kind of keep the warehouses out in a sense, because honestly, it's probably the biggest complaint that we hear. So I like the idea in the forethought on that, or however, foreshadowing. So I appreciated that. That's why I said it makes sense. Because once you go that way, and we kind of see it, Reynoldsburg's kind of pushing in. So
Township is the lowest on the totem pole. So you got to do what you can.
any
Any other comments that the board has? All right. So we're gonna go ahead and open this up to public comments. I hope everybody, there was a paper in the back that they could sign. I think. Yeah. Okay. Well, if you do have public comments, I believe it's 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Thank you. I was right. So just come up to the podium, and then you will have 3 minutes to speak. And then also, just please, for the record, say your first, last name, and your address, please. So, whoever would like to come up first, go ahead.
John Kennard, 10785 Palmer Road. I guess my question is, what's the comprehensive plan's goal? Is it to control the farmers developing and selling their land? Is it to accommodate the residents that live, in a development so that they can keep that country environment? I'm still trying to figure out what all this is all about. Everybody says on the internet that their taxes have went out of sight. Everybody's shocked how, our government is starting to tax us. That's what farmers are dealing with. Farmland in this area right now is going for $100,000 or more. That burden on the farmer's taxes is, it's rough. Right now on Palmer Road, we've had one large farm sell to an investor for development. How's this going to affect them? Right now we got 3 large farms listed for sale on Palmer Road. We've got 2 large farms on Palmer Road that are for sale, not listed. And we probably could have 2 or 3 more farms on Palmer Road listed. So, all this talk about who's going to decide and control what we do with the land is affecting the farmers significantly. All the warehouses we have in this area have not affected any residents or any housing developments. Those were all sold by farmers that wanted to get out of farming. They've been in farming 3, 4, and 5 generations, and their kids don't want to work anymore. They don't want to farm. They want to go out and do something else. But yet we're standing here saying, you guys cannot sell your land. We don't care. You've got to keep farming. So what's your option? That's the only thing I'm saying. I guess I would like to know on all of our zoning commissions, our trustees, how many folks on those committees have representation from farmers? I mean, not to put anybody on the spot, does anybody up here own land? It seems like everything in Etna is controlled by people that live in housing developments on a postage stamp lot. I mean, my suggestion is if you want to keep Etna Township rural, buy some land. Am I limited on time?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. To answer your question, this is a suggestion, a recommendation. This is not law.
That's fine.
So, we're here as the zoning commission for a reason. People who want to change the zoning for development, that's why we're here. We have public hearings and different things like that. We are not saying thou shalt not, sell your land or anything like that. That's not our purpose. That is not the purpose of this. There's been a lot of people in the community, though, of our township who want to keep Etna rural. That was their goal of having the survey, thank you, that's the word I was thinking, to go out. We want to get the comments of people like you. So, I mean, I understand, I'm not a farmer, I never have been, I'm a city girl, but I have family members that were farmers, many generations before, and I understand. It's the generation, like, I wouldn't know one thing to do about farming, so if I did own the land, I wouldn't know what to do with it, personally. So I get it. We understand, but this is only a recommendation. This is not law.
That's what that's good. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think Jim was ready to have.
Oh, do you want to say anything also?
Yeah, so, I can stand up here all night. I won't. So I think with this, point very well taken. You know, a lot of people think, we're forcing someone to do something or not to do something. Everyone can sell their land, but I think it's incumbent upon the community to say, you can develop in some form or fashion. Here's the intensities in which you can do it. I agree with, if you don't want a farm next to you, go cut the guy a check. I'm always a proponent of buying the land you don't want developed, so that's an option, obviously not realistic for some people, but if a farmer sells, and we had one farmer that I can say for sure was on the committee, maybe some others that lived in larger lots or at least non-subdivision lots, that was a concern, and we brought that up time after time that, hey, I don't have a 401k as a farmer, I have 400 acres of land, and that is my 401k. So that was in the comments and the discussions of balancing, we can't just let everything develop into whatever, but if you do want to develop, this is the guide to do it. So that's kind of the purpose.
We're using this as a tool, as a guide to help us, not in the township in general, not only this board, but, with the appeals board, different things, because the community had an input on this, that's why we're going to look at this and, use it as a suggestion, because, the people of Etna, you do matter. We're citizens of Etna. We sit here too. So we're all on the same page, I hope, and we want to be on the same page with everyone. Now, does anyone else like to step up? Feel free. And as a reminder, you got 3 minutes, and I just set the timer just so if there was more, everybody has a chance to speak.
So my name is Manoj Pokala. The residence address is 13541 Palmer Road, Southwest, Etna, Ohio. This is in regards to the density, what we have seen earlier, probably in the next slide. This is so we did attend last zoning meeting here, and we expressed our concerns, and we also attended the comprehensive plan, the zoning commission meeting, but we did not talk anything because I thought we were not supposed to talk in those meetings. So that's why we just wanted to express our concern in this meeting. If you look into this planned residential, that's where our comment is. It was earlier, in the maybe 6 months ago or something, it was saying about 5 units per acre, then it was shot down to 3 units per acre. That is little concern in regards to, for any developer. The main reason is that there are multiple reasons. One is COVID, the other one is Intel. So Intel is a good one, COVID is not. So before COVID, the situation was different. After COVID, so many things happened, and also there was a lot of inflation, and there is a huge surge in terms of material cost and the labor cost. So to develop any piece of land, it is costing about 1.5 times more than what it was costing earlier. So that is one thing. And also, Intel came here and there is a lot of development happening. and it is increasing the need for the residences. So our request is to increase the density, because in this area, if we go with the low density, we cannot deliver a built home, final product at a low cost that is affordable by the lower middle class or any working people. So our request is to increase that 3 units to 4 units. I mean, we are not asking for very high. Then it will become easy to, it will help in the overall cost of the house in terms of the development and building the construction cost, so that we can keep the final product into like below 500K or 450K. So it becomes easy for working people to buy the house. That's a request.
Can I ask a follow-up question real quick? Do you happen to know the difference between how that would drive the average cost of a home if it was increased from 3 to 4?
Yes, yeah. We do have it, but I don't have it right now.
Okay.
But my planner and the developer, they have the details. I can provide.
Ballpark. I'm just curious how much more affordable it would be.
It was about 150K different.
I'm sorry?
150K.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty big.
That's significant, yes.
Yeah, that was, yeah. But I don't have it right now, but I can provide those details. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So what he was saying is, he has a concern, if you understood, about the units per acre for private residential.
Yeah, I get it, absolutely. Again, I mentioned that was a hot topic for a couple meetings. Again, I think through the planning process, that is a topic of discussion between both you and the developer and the trustees. You as the commission can say, hey, Jim, go change it, and that's what we're going to recommend to the trustees, or we can, we're taking these comments, Stephanie and myself, and we can list them, and then if you want to say, hey, these are the comments that we were solicited with, and then pass it on to the trustees to make a decision, that's acceptable too, however you guys want to handle it.
I have a quick question, comment, and that was wasn't that the same example you used? If that did become adopted into the new plan, that would be an instance that a developer could seek a variance?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a variance or negotiation through the plan year development.
I thought that was.
Thank you, that's good.
Anything is on the table, if it's a PUD.
Okay.
Discussion's wide open.
Jim, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Let's face it, that was a hot topic, was it not?
Yeah.
And at one time, we talked 5, and then we settled on 3 for the recommendation, right?
Correct. It will be a hot topic. I mean, it's not going away.
Yeah.
Not only here or any other community.
Okay, so are there any other comments? Come on up.
Matthew Rosenberg, 46 Cedar Park Boulevard. My first is more of a question, just trying to understand the difference between the industrial and commercial zoned areas, which, Jim, I'll let you get to that after I'm done, so I appreciate that. The next becomes just looking at the future land use. You're right, it is a hot topic thing. We in the community always discuss, densities and all that. I left Pataskala to come to Etna because of densities. They were putting 6, 7 houses per acre in some of those developments up there. And that's not, if you want that, go to the cities, go to Brownsburg, go to Granville, go to Pataskala. I think most of us here in Etna came here to get away from that. And that's what's concerning as I look here, and planned residential is 21% of the future land use of the entire thing. That's the majority of it. Where is, why can't we have more single family home? And I mean, God forbid, let's put some things out there where you can have more rural residential. There, developers will sit here and lie to us all day long, say there's not a market for that. And I can tell you, as someone who is close with several realtors, there's a market for it. It's just not a money grab for the developers, so they don't want to put it. To sit there and say that, you know, yeah, we can make lower prices. Of course, low, sir. They're making more per house. But here, to us, we lose more from that. We don't gain on the developer making money. We lose on it. We lose our identity. We lose our space. We lose our wastewater. We already don't have enough of that to go around. And then I'm not understanding this whole neighborhood commercial on the south side of 70. Yep, right there. Like it just, that area doesn't, there's nothing, I don't see anything there to draw commercial to it. Especially when you have to get through the now industrial park to get there. I mean, I don't know, it's, you know, again, farming that if while we can is good, but after that, there's not, unless you wanted to go to rural residential, there's not an area to where it's going to attract people to put a, you know, a grocery store in there because it's so out of the way for everything. I'm not understanding that. I think we need to think more of what the area can sustain. And back to his point with the farmers, yeah, the plan doesn't say what the farmers can't do, but at the same time, it also doesn't say what they can. And some of this isn't just on you guys. This goes to our trustees as well, who want to do bonehead things and say we can't put a solar farm out there. Like, give the farmer something to do other than put 5 houses, 7 houses per acre in. Yeah, we can't. We got to look to the future of what they're going to do with that land, because that is, 20% next to planned residential. That's the largest area we have here, and it's going to trickle down because there's no money left in agriculture. But if all we're doing is saying, hey, if you give up farming, you got to sell to a developer. We got to look forward to what we can offer those areas.
Thank you.
To be honest, I forgot the first comment.
Industrial versus commercial.
Yeah. So the planned employment, the gray versus the red.
The gray versus red.
Yeah. So the difference is, this is what you kind of see there: the big box, either the manufacturing or warehouse, anything that's employment generator. Lots of cars, lots of trucks. We try to keep those around the intersections, plus the area that was already there. Where neighborhood commercial and village commercial are retailers, professional offices, medical offices, more everyday things that you might go to compared, well, I guess you do your job like that, or should, then you don't have it. Anyway, so that's kind of the big difference between the commercials and the industrial and the planned employment is the type of use that is allowed to go there.
What about the pink there along 40 coming out of Reynoldsburg on the south side?
Neighborhood commercial, same as
Okay, is that neighborhood commercial?
Yeah.
So that would include like mixed use, like a Bridge Park type thing, anything like that?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Much smaller scale, but the same concept.
Yeah.
From what I understand, like especially down off of 310 there, yeah, right there. That's probably where the Loves is, if I'm guessing.
Loves is right here.
Yeah, because there's 2 warehouses right there, and then Loves is kind of right in that little corner somewhere there. And then the other area across, that's where like Speedway and all that mixed development is coming in. And then McDonald's and all that on that side. And then of course we go across 40, and that's where Sheets is, and then we have an area there that can be mixed development right across.
Yeah, and the basis for this, again, the committee members are here, you tell me if I'm wrong, but we talked about that. And the reason we did that was knowing that the state is somehow trying to connect
Right, and that was
33 to you guys.
They're trying to do that.
So that was the reason, knowing that connector is potentially going to come up at someday at some point. That was the basis.
Plus our plans in Etna Township.
Oh, yeah.
Etna Township's got that, I think.
Violet or Liberty Township. Yeah, Turo is Reynoldsburg. Yeah, Liberty's looking to do something.
Yeah, I didn't talk
So
about that for some time.
Yeah, that was the real basis for that.
We'd also talked about in the survey, there was a lot of people that wanted to see more restaurants, more mom and pops, more service places like salons, get your hair done, get your nails done, therapeutic massage and that kind of thing. And that was kind of the thinking as more and more traffic went through there. It made sense at the time.
Yeah, and if you overlay this map, we did have some pedestrian connection there as well. There's already a path in front of Love's. Again, is it the best? No, it's a pretty busy highway, but hopefully we can connect that through non-traffic means, traffic causing means, if people want to get out of their cars. That was another thing we talked about there. Potentially, at least give them the option.
I would like to see a bike trail, personally. That kind of connects some of these areas, but that's me.
So, taking this a little bit further, I mean, like the one on 40, that's going to be probably a shared use thing. Probably not going to take your 3-year-old on a walk along that. But, potentially these other areas, and to your point, that's a good point. We can look at other areas in which there's other paths either proposed, especially probably basketball, to connect to their neighbors.
Some folks would like the park connecting that.
Yeah.
With a bike trail.
The Township Park right here?
Yeah.
Yep, that's what we got right there.
Madam Chairman, can comment on that? We definitely need something along 40 with a buffer, because I cycle, and I work with a lot of cyclists.
Yeah.
And I've tried to ride along 40, and even with as much shoulders we have,
It's really difficult.
It's very uncomfortable, so we definitely need some kind of, at least on one side, with a buffer.
Yeah.
Not just a shared use, but a path with buffer.
Yeah.
Which is what they are now calling for from the state level too, is no longer
Yes.
shared use, but buffer zones as well because of those issues.
Yes. And that's what he was talking about with that one map that shows the areas that is, I guess, a priority.
Yes.
You would call it. That's what they're talking about with that. Like I said, it made sense. Anybody else has a public comment? The floor is yours. Oh, okay, we got 2 fighting.
All right.
Find it out.
Ryan Davis, 8807 Watkins Road, Southwest. Jim, when was the original date you were going to have this done? I think this was like 6 years ago.
6 months ago.
Seems like forever ago, but so basically what I want to ask the board, and we're fortunate enough to have one of your board members on the original 15-person committee. There was obviously a lot of, Jim explained, there's a ton of time put into this. 14 meetings, more than, a couple of hours, some of the meetings long.
Oh, it is too.
Very, very long, very detailed. I think it was very important to for what your decision is to look at everything, and it's not just Jim, not just the 15 people, but even the surveys we got back. I think the plan that Jim helped us put together represents what the surveys are.
Right.
And I do think that it wasn't that long ago, there was a referendum arguing against high density zoning that the community overwhelmingly vetoed. So, not saying that things can't change in the future. Like Jim said, it's start in a position and possibly change in the future. But I think the plan we put in place is very conservative. I think it's something that you guys can work with and obviously take each by case basis. I don't know if I would dive into the details more so. Like if there's something glaring that we did wrong that you guys think is wrong and you guys want to change it, then by all means, that's your prerogative. But I think obviously it wasn't done overnight. Jim can attest to that. I think there's a lot of information on there. Definitely, if you see something we missed, by all means, but I think in the grand scheme of diving into every detail and making catastrophic changes to the plan we're proposing to you as a guideline, I think probably wouldn't do the best service, because we were basing our input on our feelings tied with the community survey, tied with Jim's experience, tied with everything we want to see in the community. So that's what I would like to see, is you guys ask any other detailed questions after we're done speaking, specifically like, I don't agree with this, here's why. Otherwise, I think this is something that, as presented, could go to the trustees and let them ask the same questions. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah, I was gonna also say, in the first time that we received this, which is kind of like a rough draft, I guess, in a way. One of our more detailed members here went through this, and maybe we had a meeting, they had a meeting where they discussed maybe some tweaking that had to be done with some things like that. So we do appreciate all the time and effort that this has taken, because I know I've been on these committees before. You got a lot of opinions with 15 different people, 15 different ways of thinking. So for everybody to come together and have this presented is amazing in a 2-year period. So go ahead.
I wanted to, there was time, and Ryan, you probably remember, there was certain questions came up, and if we had an answer or the answer needed verified or we didn't have an answer, Jim was happy to research and come back with a verified answer. And I know he would help us again if the commission has questions like that or if the public has any questions like that. I know he'd be willing to, do for everybody what he did for us.
Right.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right, floor is yours. Saw him get up.
My name's Kevin Rook, 1136 Columbus Street. So one of my main questions is, with Columbus Street in part of the village center, what are the plans for all the residential housing there? Then also, it's stated on page 73 about Columbus Street becoming a collector street. So are you planning on opening Columbus Street back up to 310? So those were...
Page 73?
Yeah. So those were my questions.
Do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, so,
Columbus Street and South Street.
yeah. So the first part is the residential units can stay there. That's not, you could have a coffee shop that is now in a house, or something like that. We're not saying, someone needs to go buy 6 units and tear it down to build something. Having that potential change in use to be commercial or residential, retail, those are all fine. Everybody live harmoniously together. There's other things you gotta do with commercial. You gotta talk about parking, you gotta talk about other things. But the residential can stay as is. Columbus Street.
I think it was used as an example, per se, because it says such as South Street and Columbus Street.
Yeah, so, let's see, generally, commercial. Yeah, that's just saying typically or generally the commercial and mixed use would be located along those 2 streets. Let me go back to here. We show Columbus Street being improved. We don't show any intersection improvements being needed. So would it be opened up in the future? I can't answer that right now. It's not shown to be that way.
Okay.
Could be.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come on now? Come on in.
While you have this up, can I ask where you got this map from?
First of all, would you be able to tell your
Rachel
name?
Zelazny, 10141 28 Road,
I made it.
Southwest. You made it? Okay, just because with the, okay, so where number 7 is, how did you come up with that road there?
I think the discussion was having a potential intersection being dropped in, or not intersection, interchange with Etna Parkway, and then continuing that to access the industrial park, quasi-industrial park, the Coles, and connecting, I believe the Transportation Improvement District did a study to see how to connect.
And whose goal was that? Just because I asked, because where the dot, like where 7 is, that's my house. So that's concerning, which I did email and haven't got a response from. But I've also seen developers send out this same map wanting to know if we would sell so they could plow through my house. So I've seen this before from developers. So I was curious how that came about and how you just have the same idea as developers that have been wanting to buy out my house.
So insinuating that I'm working with developers. is
I'm not, I
absurd.
just think it's interesting
I
about
made
the
this
same
map, and
plan.
I'm assuming the developers probably are smart enough to figure out where development's gonna happen. They can keep
But
their
if there's
consent.
farmland around my house, why wouldn't it go around
The road or the development?
the road?
It could, this is a general location, and I think it's in the plan that these aren't exact locations. This is a straight shot, you know, obviously this could maneuver depending on land acquisition, stuff like that.
Do we think though having it in there though, like this, is saying, hey, this is what we're going towards, we're working towards?
Absolutely it is.
Okay, so for me, why would we have a plan going through my house?
Well, we're not targeting you personally. You know, it's anybody's house could be affected by any of these roadway improvements.
I mean, sure, if it's going like you have now a neighbored road, but literally that is through my, like, do I offer them coffee through my kitchen? Like,
Well, I don't know.
so I mean, I don't understand why that would be,
Because the Transportation Improvement District is.
because
looking at
other
this.
people said they thought that this came from ODOT and I couldn't find anything through ODOT.
No, this came right here, through the committee's discussions, through knowing that the TID is discussing it.
Okay.
I don't know how you want to handle it, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I think it's just a 3-minute thing. Would you be able to, maybe we could sidebar this? Because I know it's a concern.
Yeah.
We can-
I mean, also on Tollgate where you guys are switching it to 2.5 acre lots from the 5 acre, where even from Etna through Violet Township, it's all 5 acres. So I mean, there's just that whole road. I don't understand that area. Because it doesn't make sense for that area that have mansions all the way down it.
You can ask the people that spoke to for sure sign in, so I have their stuff.
Oh, yes, anyone that did make a public comment, would you please be able to sign the sheet? So when we do put the minutes together, we have your name and everything. Be so kind. And does anyone else have any public comments? The floor is yours. Don't be shy.
Ashley King, 75 Trail East. I was actually part of the committee too. So I did want to just point out part of the reason that there's so much residential on there is because it's already happening. It's already been approved. I think a lot of people had a lot of concerns about that online, and I just wanted to point that out. It's already happening. Like, we're not stopping it. It's already there. It's already going to go through. So we just put it on there because there's no point in changing the map on that part. But I know a lot of people seem concerned about how much residential there is, but it's already a thing. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Also, I know some people did come in late. This is a recommendation. It is not law. This is just a guide. Just so, as I know I'm reiterating, but some people came in a little late. Just so you all are aware, this is not a law. This is just a guide that we are going by because of the surveys and everything that came in. All right, anyone else? No one?
Easy.
Save it for the trustees.
Yeah. I know it's a lot to take in tonight. All right. Thank you all for whoever made a public comment, and do appreciate the feedback. And this is why we had the meeting and everything today. Now, moving forward here, does anyone else on?
I'd like to ask Jim a question.
Sorry.
You said that you're going to put the revisions on your website. Do you have a planned date of when that will be available?
I was kind of waiting to see what came out of tonight. Probably 2 weeks, I think. When we do that, maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Because we're rebuilding all the maps and working on a lot of that stuff. Thank you.
All right. So what is the pleasure of the board? Let's speak at once.
And we're just discussing this, right? We're not making any motions or anything.
Just how would you all like to proceed now that we've heard everything and we've went through this our second time? Everything's first.
You need to get rid of your mic because they don't hear you.
Oh, okay. I thought I could hear me over there. No.
Some very good points were brought up. I think we were for us to discuss further the agricultural zoning plans,
Yes.
The density. I'd like to get firm numbers on how much that adds, or adds or subtracts from the value of a home, how much they can sell a home for 3 versus 4 per acre. Plus, I don't hear why, the reasoning behind 3, why they settled on 3 when they were looking at 5.
Okay.
I would love to take a look at Tophet, what she brought up there. I thought these were just roads. When I was looking at that map, I couldn't tell. I thought they were just roads that existed that needed maybe widened or whatever. But if there's no road there, I would love to see. I wouldn't want a road going even if it wasn't to your house. I'd like to know why you want that in your front yard. That kind of thing. I understand.
Well, I'd be concerned about school children too, because you're like, hey, semis use this, and it's all residential. Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Because my kids almost get hit by semis that aren't supposed to be on toll gate waiting for a school bus.
Yeah.
Why would we encourage it
We should
more?
absolutely look into those things. So I'm not comfortable passing on until we look into those
Okay.
things further.
That is fine.
That's just me.
All right. How do y'all feel about it on this end?
But I like the idea, I like Jim's offer of compiling all the comments so that when it finally does go to the trustees, they can have not only the draft that we put together and our thoughts, but also the comments that were brought forth tonight. So if you still are willing to do that and you think that's a good idea, I'd love to have those comments incorporated to when we finally pass it along.
I have to concur with Adam. There's, 3 items that I'd love to hear. I hear our farmers. They have to be heard. No doubt about that.
Precisely, yes.
Same thing about density. I don't want to beat a dead horse on density because
Yes.
it looks like the trustees, the zoning, we have kind of an out in negotiations if that's needed. But I really think that we need to look at least 3 of these points before we make our recommendations up to the trustees. I really do.
Do you two agree? Or what do you think?
I would agree with that.
Okay. Same. All right. Okay. So I guess what we are going to do is look into the 3 items that Adam has mentioned. And I would like to get more information on them. And by the way, thank you for coming tonight and showing us the presentation and everything. I know that did help a lot. I hope it did for everyone. Yeah, I do agree as well. I'd like to move with the board here where we'd like to review that before we send this on over to the trustees. And I'd also like to have the public comments tonight and have that incorporated in there as well.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So when you say incorporated, like just list them and
List
keep
it,
it with
yes.
the document? Okay.
Yes, please.
Not actually make the changes?
No, not at this moment, no.
Thank you. And then with the 3 comments I heard, is that something that we are to help provide, or are you guys gonna talk amongst yourselves?
So that's.
I might have some questions. One question I have is just the density. When was that decided? Do you remember? Because I know this was like 18 months. Was there early on? Huh?
It was closer to the end.
I think we talked about it.
We talked about
And
it
then we-
extensively, and it was because people really wanted it to be more rural. And so much so that we
Yeah,
were
I
like,
get
okay, we'll make it.
I was just curious, because the comment was prices have gone up since COVID, and if you decided early on, and I granted that was still after COVID, the prices have continued to go up. I was just curious.
Yeah, I don't know that, we definitely talked about lower income, but we felt that, I think that there was enough other areas that were planned residential or, mixed, that it would be okay to go that route, so.
If I may, I forgot to add this when I was speaking, but we also mentioned, because I'm curious about the schools, because I know the high school is actually over capacity right now, and that's with 1,000 homes already approved in Etna, not counting everything else. So the density in the schools and the impact and the extra taxes that are being paid to add more schools is one of my concerns and several people's concerns during the committee meetings.
Fair enough.
And see, Brian, that
We
feedback,
have some
that
feedback
additional
on that.
information is important, you know?
Yeah, I forgot when I was up there. I wasn't going to chime in, but then it came up, so I thought.
I actually have a little bit of feedback on that because there was a Zascola Chamber meeting last Tuesday. And we actually went to the school. 3 school districts talked. They did say they are at capacity right now and they have the ability, because they have just built, the property and everything, they have purchased new land to be able to expand if they need to, if I'm correct. You were in the meeting as well. Weren't you? Gary? Okay. And that's what they said. Pointing, I know, everybody's like, who is she pointing at? I'm sorry. Yeah, so they actually discussed that in the chamber meeting. So I guess we have a little bit of background information on that because they were talking about how they have done a 10-year plan and to see the expansion. And so they are planning on that expansion because not only for the high school, but the elementary and the middle school, they are trying to counteract that development coming into the area. So there is a plan in place, if that helps anyone.
And I know most people are familiar with the public school districts, Southwest Licking and Licking Heights, but Liberty Christian is also, like right now they have over 600 students in one of their buildings. And they have also purchased a big chunk of land, so they're in the game with us too.
All 3 school districts are planning on this new development coming in. So I found it a very informative meeting, and that kind of helped my mindset with what we do here. So that is a plan that is in place with all 3 school districts. That helps.
Even in Golden School District also it is happening. A lot of developments are happening and they're building many schools.
Yes. But those are the 3 that affect us, majorly. All right, anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Just to put you back on topic,
Please.
because we have an extra week this month, you guys won't meet for 3 weeks. So Jim should have his stuff ready for you guys at your next meeting.
Okay.
Thanks, Laura.
And you said 2 to 3 weeks, buddy.
That is.
I just got my
A
calendar.
little pressure, huh, Jim?
Yeah.
That is, from what I see, the 13th of February. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, he can keep in touch with us, and if it's not gonna happen, we'll just
Sure.
know not to put it on the agenda. But I was just letting you know, I'm circling you back to the next time meeting.
Thank you very much. You keep us on track. I love that. Okay. So if you are available to get this ready by our next meeting, which I am looking at the calendar as the 13th of February, like she said, that is 3 weeks away. If not, just contact us and let us know.
Well, so even if we can, Stephanie's gonna be at a different meeting, and so am I, already not meeting, so even if we get it to you, we can't be here.
Okay, that's good to know.
I was meaning more that they would have it to be able to discuss.
Yeah, at
Sure.
least if we have it to discuss, even if we don't make a decision.
Okay.
Now, I don't think you know this, but I am going to be out of the state on our last meeting, which is the 27th of February. Which I don't know if you all want to make a decision accordingly. I don't, it depends on the 13th.
It's a good chance I won't be available for the 13th.
Okay.
But I could be for the next.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. That's fun. But we'll make sure you get the information, of course. So what you could probably do is if you want to send that to Laura by email or whatever, that is fine. And then we would be able to review that and everything, either, one of our meetings that we're gonna have.
You guys can move off of Tuesday, but it makes a special meeting.
Right. Yeah, if we did need to do that, we can.
Yeah, we can have it. We can have it to you by then, so you can look at it.
Okay.
And then if we're gonna come back to discuss the three, we can do that too.
Right. Being that he's not gonna be here possibly on the 13th, I won't be here on the 27th, we may have to move the meeting. Maybe we can talk about that in February. What do you guys think?
Which meeting?
I'm not gonna be here on the 27th of February. Dave may not be here on the 13th of February.
Right, but you said we may have to move the meeting. Which one you were talking about?
Maybe the last.
The 27th?
Yeah.
27th.
Yeah, like I will be here on the 28th, if you wanted to move it, but we'll discuss that later. That's a little far out.
Well, yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
You were talking about moving the 13th, and that's the next one, so we need to talk about that now.
I think the 13th will be okay,
Okay.
but, yeah. I mean, if you're just gonna be out one, it's okay.
I'll review it.
Yeah, of course. I have no doubt. All right. Okay, so we are going to move to the NAICS codes.
Dave and Shaw.
Okay.
Dave can explain. We probably don't have to take action on it tonight, but just explain that we emailed us.
Yes. The NA, what am I saying? Well, it's
I'll
this
come
here.
back to them. I just wanted them to understand why we pulled the NEICS codes, and then you gave them an email that explained the formatting that was a recommendation from the prosecutor's office.
That
So we don't have to
she
spend
wants
a
you to
lot of
explain
time
the
on it tonight, but
email
it's
that you
not.
sent out for, that we all have right here.
Everybody has.
Yes. Where's yours?
I think, Laura talked to the, assistant prosecutor about some of the things that we were doing for the NAICS code changes. And she wrote back with a recommendation on how to make them more consistent, perhaps, and some that we needed to review. And so, I would propose that we don't act on that tonight, what we had previously planned to do, but extend it to, the future meetings, so that we get all the wording correct, and, so that there's no changes, coming along later.
I
That would
agree.
be my recommendation at this point.
Do we all agree on that? Yes. Okay. All right, thank you.
And in case you guys got confused on her email, her opinion to us is attorney-client privilege within your board.
Yes.
Within the zoning commission.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That would have been the opinion we would have been getting if John would have got it in before he left.
Okay.
So,
Yes, I agree that we can just move that, maybe after we put this to bed, we can move back to this. I think we got some time. I mean, it's on hold, so it doesn't, it matters.
it didn't get submitted.
It did get submitted, yeah. Okay,
It got pulled, I should say.
thank you. Thank you for clarification. Anything else on that? Okay. There's no new business. I guess we're asking one more time. Does anyone else have any other public comments? Okay, none. All right. So lastly, is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Is there a second? All right, roll call please. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we are going to adjourn at 7:24.